Good morning. It's Wednesday, September 24th, National Cherries Jubilee Day. We did this last year too. I didn't know what it was then. I don't know what it is now, but it looks good. I'd eat it. And that's good enough for me, I guess. You come here for the news. You don't come here for the recipes. And now, the news. Starting with the UN. The U stands for United, by the way, which I mentioned because it appears that some people forgot. And by some people, I mean the president. The president of the United States seems to have forgotten what that stands for. The speech was not great, everybody. Trump's speech at the UN was kind of all over the place, not in a good way, so let's play the whatever opposite of the hits are. On immigration, he said, quote, "Time to end the failed experiment of open borders. End it now. I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell." End quote. Really, man? On the day of the rapture, you're going to joke about hell? Wow. I don't know. He's literally standing in front of the UN, looking at all of these people and telling them, your countries are going to hell. Not amazing. He also said, quote, "Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before with different customs, religions, with different everything." End quote. Oh no, Trump's not a white supremacist. Why do people keep saying that? Quote, "Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before with different customs, religions, with different everything." End quote. It is on record that the only person that Trump does not have a problem with in the White House is Stephen Miller, who once said that if he had it his way, there would only be 100 million Americans and they'd all look like him. And if that happens, I will not be one of those 100 million Americans by choice. I know I bring that quote up a lot, but not enough people are talking about it. And then Trump says stuff like what he said at the UN. And while he said a lot of outrageous things at the UN, which we're going to cover more further into this story, hardly anybody covered that quote. He called climate change tech, quote, "suicidal energy ideas," and added that they were, quote, "the greatest con job ever perpetuated on the world," end quote, and called the recognition of a Palestinian state, quote, "a reward for Hamas." He even questioned the point of the UN, repeating again his unfounded 7-war claim, stating, quote, "I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of those countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle." End quote. I'm going to talk about the escalator in a second. Don't worry, there was a reason that he talked about it. Well, who knows how that man's mind works, but there was a reason he commented on the escalator. But overall, his 7 wharves thing was fairly mild. He dug in further. He also said, quote, "That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war." End quote. He later said, "I think the potential of the United Nations is incredible, really incredible. It can do so much, so I'm behind it." I'm shocked to hear that Trump doesn't know how to appropriately show support. I wonder where he learned it from. So let's go back to the escalator comment. Not even the escalator escaped the wrath of Trump in his wide-ranging speech. Here's what happened. Apparently, while he was on his way up the escalator with Melania, the escalator stopped in the middle. As escalators, frankly, are wont to do. It happened. And then the White House opened an immediate investigation into Escalator Gate, with Caroline Leavitt saying, quote, if someone at the UN intentionally stopped the escalator as the president and first lady were stepping on, they need to be fired and investigated immediately. Meanwhile, the shopping cart escalator at Target stops every 3 days and everyone's fine with it. The speech lasted nearly an hour, making it the longest speech by any US president ever at the UN. And it was a terrible speech. Dude was basically doing crowd work in the room. Like, oh, I see Germany's here. Germany, you focused too much on green energy in the past. Who else is here? Who else is here? China's here. China and India. You guys do too much of funding of Russia in Ukraine, which I'm very wishy-washy on, and once took to Temu Twitter to say, Vladimir, stop. So don't do that, and sometimes do that. He insulted everybody, every country. He was like, and you there, country I've definitely heard of because I'm well-versed in world affairs. Bad. He he complimented Brazil for a second on a really nice hug and then said, but also in the past, Brazil, can you believe this, unfairly tariffed our nation, end quote. Dude, you tariffed penguins. You literally tariffed a country that is just basically penguins. Was that fair? I'm sure the penguins weren't thrilled, nor are most of the countries that are forced to play your weird tariff games right now because someone taught you the word, but not the definition. Later in the day, he also said that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircrafts if they enter their airspace. Okie doke. Some of the countries are trying to have a more measured response, but that's definitely also an option. Maybe not the best one, but you can't argue that it is not some sort of option. It's something. You know what I mean? The biggest news came later in the day, though, when Trump switched sides and says that now he believes Ukraine can win back all of the land that Russia has attempted to steal from Ukraine. And how did he come to this stunning change of mind? Quote, after getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form, end quote. Crazy what a little bit of education will do for you. He'll learn nothing from this. Meanwhile, Zelensky knows how to play the game and told reporters, quote, Trump is a game changer by himself. That man, he knows how to do multiple things. Chief among them, wear cool outfits and play Trump like a fiddle. We'll see where we go from here. Moving to Fort Pierce, Florida, where a federal jury has found Ryan Routh guilty of last year's assassination attempt of Donald Trump while he was on his Florida golf course. Routh was found guilty on all 5 counts, which included weapons violations and, as noted, attempted assassination. After the verdict was read, Routh attempted to stab himself in the neck with a pen before U.S. Marshals subdued him. The big question of the case was whether he had the intent to kill, although he did not fire his weapon. Is the thought the crime? That was the defense's defense, is thinking about it, but not actually pulling the trigger, an actual crime. While on the prosecution side, they said, yeah, I'd say when a gun is pointed at someone, the thought is probably the crime. What are you supposed to do? Wait until the gun is fired? Wait until the president of the United States is shot? No, come on now. I mean, there's more nuance to be had here, but still, I think at a certain point, we've got to say we have First Amendment right to say certain things. You have, inside thoughts. Those inside thoughts can be anything, but at a certain point, we got to be like, you had a gun pointed at the president. He will be sentenced on December 18th and faces life in prison. Also on Tuesday, Trump canceled his meeting with Senator Schumer and House Rep Jeffries to talk about what they need for Democrats to be able to vote yes on the Republican budget and keep the government open. Looks like this was a classic case of don't wanna. Quote, after reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive, end quote. The monsters in question have demanded changes to the Republican-led Medicare cuts, which are expected to cost millions of people their health care. They are also including an extension of subsidies for the cost of healthcare plans under the Affordable Care Act, as well as restoring funding to PBS and NPR. Again, monsters. The government has until the 30th to get their act together. Well, let's not go that far. They have until the 30th to get a budget signed off on. And that's it. That's the news. Not a big news day when the President of the United States takes to the UN and is like, what's the point of the UN? And also, every country here, I have a problem with you all. So that was the big story of the day. All right, listen, we're stepping things up here. Here's what's happening. I've got the YouTube. I'm back on Substack. I forgot to tell you, I'm back on Substack. I'm a professional now, as you can tell. So I can't leave you hanging about Cherry's Jubilee. It is, according to when I asked Jeeves, an elegant, that was his word, elegant dessert with cherries, sugar, and liqueur, which, quite frankly, if someone had told me that liqueur was a part of this, I would have come running to it much sooner, that are flambéed and then served over vanilla ice cream. That sounds baller, quite frankly, and honestly, elegant as all get out, which is good because a jubilee is a celebration of an anniversary, which you would know if you saw that one episode of The Crown all that time ago. And now I'm wondering, this is real, I'm wondering this in real time. Is The Crown still on? I'm not going to look it up. Someone just DM me or text me. Is The Crown on still, or is it done? Anyway, so it's a jubilee, and this dessert was invented to honor Queen Victoria's diamond, or 60th, Jubilee. So there you go. That is what a Cherry's Jubilee is, and that is why it was invented. You come here for the news and recipes. It turns out, I am proud of Cherry's Jubilee. Jubilees of all kinds, really. But more than that, because every single thought of you is the world's Jubilee, frankly, and don't think too hard about it, because it makes sense to me, and I do mean it. It makes sense to me. You make sense to me. You're my Jubilee. And I'm proud of you.